Well, I think we should get started, and people will join as we keep going. Right now, there's 9 people on the call. So, Gordon, I want to introduce Gordon Uehling, who we're lucky to have on this call. Gordon was a professional tennis player himself, a student of Jose Garris and James Lair, some of the great tennis minds, and is founder and owner of Court Sense, which is a methodology and also a group of tennis clubs in New Jersey. And he also has pretty unique perspective on the game, I would say, as having been an athlete himself who took up tennis late in his life, who's the father of a rising junior tennis player, and who also is a close friend of Novak Djokovic. So he has a feel for the game from kind of all levels. And so today I'd love to just kind of, Gordon, pick your brain on what your methodology is with Court Sense and kind of how you use technology at the club. And I think we can all learn from it. So
absolutely. Well, it's a pleasure to be on. Thanks for having me, Josh. And it's kind of sometimes funny to do these talks where you can't see everybody's eyes and their expressions. And, if I'm sometimes going too long with something or, but I'll do my best just to explain who I am and what we're all about. Court Sense was something I dreamed about doing and many years ago when I was about 18 years old. I went after tennis for 9 years. I went on, played professional tennis, or I was kind of a journeyman. Just started the game pretty late, got to 800, 900 in the world and singles and 800 in doubles. But one thing I'm just going to mention is I grew up with dyslexia, and dyslexia is something in school where you have to use different senses. And that's where I kind of came up with the name Court Sense, because I always felt that you should use many different ways of teaching people, right? It's not only auditory, but there's visual, there's all the different senses that are important. And the visual is a huge one that I always found was helpful to me. And in fact, 60% of the population do things visually. So I actually tried to create my own version of PlaySight, and the USTA put some cameras in. It was kind of it had these switchers to go from camera to camera. I used Dartfish, and I was like a mad scientist that didn't have nearly the aptitude or understanding of technology, but it was a good college try. And I still have the cameras up in one of the courts at Tenafly Racket Club, and we were able to go from court to from different angles, and didn't do any statistics, but it was just a visual thing. But I wanted to compare people to themselves. I thought that was a very powerful thing for the human spirit, because you see how much you've grown, and when you're with yourself every day, or even as a coach, you don't see the growth as much. But if you go 3 months ago or even 2 weeks ago or whatever it might be, and you see before and after, it's really motivating. And I also felt that having the ability to have with the insight of a coach to say, hey, look at this, you may want to consider going that direction. They say a picture says 1,000 words. Well, video says, many more. So, when PlaySight was introduced to me, I think all of us in this business were very busy, and I didn't really have much time, but I came to look at it with Yuval, and it was across the George Washington Bridge at TCR. And it was going to be a 30-minute meeting that turned into 4 hours. And this is maybe 6 years ago. And it blew me away. It was like beyond what my wildest dreams that one could do. And it's a technology that's proven to be very helpful for many kids and coaches. And, it's also a tool, by the way, that can help a coach really understand what they're looking to do as they develop as a coach. So I find that sometimes somebody may see something, more of a experienced coach may say, hey, well, look at that video, and what do you see on the serve? And you can go frame by frame in a moment, or look back at night and kind of review a lesson you did, and did I really give the best lesson I could have given? So there's so many different things that one can use the technology for. And then you get into the analytics, and it goes on and on. I mean, I can go on. As you know, Josh, I get pretty passionate about this stuff. And I just, at Court Sense, we like to give as many tools, objective tools as possible, while giving the art of coaching. So, if you have the combination of having the experience as a coach and knowing how to help somebody, but then have objectivity to actually show somebody what you're talking about, to me, that equals magic, right? So, we try as much as possible in the fitness, the tennis, really the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, to bring objectivity as much as possible to really help somebody move along with an athlete. And anybody's an athlete. You have a 6-year-old to a 95-year-old. They're all athletes, and some may not want to see themselves as much, but it's something that to be able to communicate through video has proven to be very powerful for us.
And I know you just touched a little bit on one aspect of, well, multiple aspects, but the last thing you said was about the emotional, mental, spiritual, physical. I know that there's also part of the court sense, the significant part of the court sense philosophy has to do with kind of the mind, the feet, and the head.
Yeah, and this is something that, Jose Higueras is a huge influence, and he started Court Sense with myself and Carlos in 2001, and he's a great friend and mentor, a huge mentor of mine. And the philosophy was that and the USTA is incorporated, since, and the philosophy is that the most important part of the game is your mind, second is your feet, and third are your hands. And we look in the opposite direction. So somebody who's new to tennis, it's more working on technique, the way they transfer energy, their grips. And then you get into footwork, how they move to the ball, how they recover. And then you get into the mind with decision-making and patterns of play and, meditation and all the things to prepare for matches and visualization. So that's the one thing that PlaySight really helps, right? So if you're doing something technical, you can go frame by frame, show the athlete the player what you're trying to convey, and then even put your voice on top of it and then send it home so parents can see it and even management or whatever it might be. And then if it's footwear patterns and you want to show, and what's great about it too is if you have the PlaySight on all the time, at any moment you have that aha moment or something you want to show, you just go to the system. And you would never do that with an iPad where you put the tripod and you record for 2.5 hours, right? But it's something that you could even go through a 2-hour practice and maybe you don't even use it because you're in flow with what you're doing. The players, really paying attention, is in flow, and you don't want to disrupt the practice of the video. Other times you may use it quite a bit. So you just never know.
I see that with your coaches, Gordon, that they always have the system on and running. And sometimes they'll go through a big chunk of the practice without using it, in terms of going over to the kiosk and going over to the iPad and using the video, but they'll always have it there just in case. And that's something I think for our existing clients that are on is a big thing to talk to the coaches about. And I would wonder, Gordon, how did you implement that managerially to get people to do that, to your coaches?
I'm myself, Ogie, a lot of the management, we're the type of leaders that we pull people, we don't push them. It's not something that we say, you have to do this. So I like to inspire, and to be quite honest, there's some coaches that maybe don't put it on as much as I'd like, but they're coming around. Now one can implement and say it's a hard deadline in the next 3 weeks. From that day on, you're going to get in trouble or whatever it might be. We don't take that approach. We really want them to understand that, it's in the best interest for themselves and the student. And, I think as technologies evolve with PlaySight, like the play courts where now you have an iPad and you can maybe put them all on at once, and they start seeing, how the influence, where in that moment they do something that's really incredible. You have the iPad right there in your hand. You walk over to the player, you show them what they did well. There's a nice camaraderie that happens with the player right in that moment. And you touch them in a way that you wouldn't touch them if you just spoke to them. Or it may be something with their body language. It's not as best as it could be. I mean, we like to try to bookend things as much as possible, where you have, something very positive that you convey, and then it may be something constructive, and then you bookend it with something positive again, because you don't want to use, from my experience, PlaySight in a way where the player now feels like, oh, I don't want that on because you're always criticizing me. You want to really encourage as much as possible, and maybe even go through a period of time where it's only encouraging, so they associate the technology is not a told you so, you did it wrong, but more of a positive, like, wow, I feel like a rock star. Look at that shot I just did. Oh, I did that well, I did this well. And then over time to say, hey, how do you feel, to a player, how do you feel about me maybe coming up with some constructive things that could help you? And then having the trust. I mean, that's so important, obviously.
And on that note, one of the things that we talk about a lot in terms of one of the features is highlight clip creation, and the ability to just filter for all of your winners or all of your serves down the tee that went in, and create those highlight clips for that positive touch, that visualization.
I mean, I know a lot of kids, they'll play super tiebreakers or a set, and they're in the car and they're watching what they did and hearing what the coach had to say, and they get to review it. You know, and we have some kids that have been with us for years, and they're just another, I mean, they're a step ahead of the game because they get to actually visually see what they're doing, and the advice they're getting kind of it magnifies it because they oh, I see what they're talking about there. You know, I'm not as low as I could be, or ooh, my body language, I don't look like who I thought I looked like. You know, maybe that Federer responds this way and I'm responding that way. You know, it really it can give some insight that's powerful.
And just before we move on to the next topic, on the managerial side, just because I see a few current clients on, I know you guys have weekly meetings, just general weekly meetings, not necessarily on PlaySight, but I think I've been at a few of them, and PlaySight's been a topic. Is that something you do every week, every other week? Is it, you know, how does PlaySight come up in those kind of coach meetings?
Yeah, you know, one thing we've done more recently, which has been very powerful, is we've issued out a bunch of iPads, and we using a technology called iPort, where it's a magnet that goes on the iPad, and you just put them on the wall, and we issue out the iPad to the coach, and they now can walk around with an iPad. And you know, one of the things I like about this on a managerial side is, you know, as we know, cell phones can become challenging, and coaches may use it to do a video, or they may be using it for work, but there are times that it could be distracting where all of a sudden you get a text or an email, and that's not good. You know, we don't like that. So one thing that we're working toward is really having the iPad issued, and then you know, over time we're going to say let's get the phones out of the court, right? And you have this iPad, which is an incredible resource that we could do attendance with. We could use the Playmate ball machines with. We could even use, you know, Dartfish or iCoach technology, where you do side-by-side analysis of a player, which PlaySight doesn't offer. But now we have the ability to use it for beyond what we could use it for PlaySight. So I know that the coaches are super excited by it, and I see the iPads out all the time. And what happens with this iPort, which I really love about it, is you don't have wires at the desk. It's on the wall. It's like a picture frame, and it's a magnet. It goes in. A lot of these smart homes and more luxury homes, people have it in their kitchens, and you lock it on, and it's being charged. And then you want to take it off, and boom. And then what we're doing, you know, with iPort, we're trying to create the ability of having a piece of steel on a tripod, so then you house it on the tripod, so then you can do a video analysis side by side, but then you can also use it for, you know, to house somewhere, or you can put it over your shoulder like a purse. So you're walking around during match play, and you see that moment, and you could be on, let's say you have all these 6 play courts, and you're on court 2, you all of a sudden see something in court 4, you can then look at it, did I see that right? And you look at it, you cue it up, I did. And then maybe you walk over to the court, and that player feels like, wow, you were paying attention to me from there, or, you know, all kinds of.
Yeah, and what Gordon's referring to, there's a feature where you can start recording from any court from one tablet, from one iPad.
Yes.
That would then allow you to pull up the replay from any one of those courts.
Now, one thing I want to mention that I've discovered recently, which I think is a complete winner, is we'll do situational shots or drills. That's what I was looking for, the word drills. Situational drills, where it may be, okay, I'm going to give a short ball, the person can drive it or hit a drop shot, and the player is by the back fence, has to run up to the drop shot or retrieve the drive ball into one corner and play the point out. And all of a sudden they create an incredible point. You don't keep score, and you do this for 20 minutes, and we call it tag it. So now if they have this incredible moment, the coach has the iPad right there at the basket, and they yell, tag it, because they just came up with an unbelievable angle from the drop shot or a lob that they figured out how to, and it's something they're really proud of, right? And then that becomes a social media piece that they can now post for the club or for the player, and it just becomes an inspiration. And they're really, it's almost like every point is a match point, and it's not competitive necessarily of winning or losing. We do it in a way where you put them in all these situations. It could be a running forehand. The other person's another part of the court. You feed it, running forehand, play the point out. And now how do they respond? Oh, tag it. And they yell, tag it. It becomes like, it could almost be a poster like, hey, do 20 minutes of tag it on PlaySight.
That's really cool. And I know actually on that point, so fun is one of the major aspects of the court sense philosophy, having fun. And you've used PlaySight in that way, tagging, but also like the PlaySight arcade and doing cool things with ball machines and drill competitions. Can you touch a little bit just on the fun aspect and how you've used
Yeah, it depends on where you're at with the player, and having a ball machine, it's great. If you want to start grooving on a certain shot and you start realizing that maybe inside the court, a ball that you drive, you tend to miss, or maybe in zone 4 or 5 further back that you need to put a heavier ball, you can create these drills that you replicate that shot and you get familiar with it. And that becomes very powerful for a lot of kids. Again, it's the sense of just, that whole Pavlovian thing with the dog and the saliva. You ring a bell and you give a biscuit. You ring a bell, you give a biscuit. You ring a bell, you don't give a biscuit. They still have the salvatory response to it, right? So you're looking for that bell. It becomes a very powerful tool for a lot of kids or student, adults.
And one thing that I think a lot of clubs that have PlaySight kind of grapple with is how do they use video for differing levels of play. So you have your top junior players. It's pretty obvious they're gonna want to go over the video, debrief, understand what they did well, understand how they look compared to Novak. But how about for USTA League doubles groups and other groups that you have, because I know you have a variety of levels at courts end.
Yeah, again, you have it on and you show a situation, and if you're doing some drilling, you can even have the person, you say, hey, go press review, and you're still doing the drill. It's a nice feature for somebody to go see. Or if you have the ball machine and they're doing a loop, you bring somebody aside, say, hey, come on over here. I want to show you what I was talking about with the loop on your forehand. Or if it's a doubles drill or a doubles play, if you have that moment where they now poached, you want to show it to them. Hey, come on over. Let me show you this. So the sky's the limit with all the different things you can use it for. And it's just really the creativity of the team that tries to implement it.
Right. And do your coaches, is most of the video work that you do, is it on court or do you do stuff?
Mostly on court. Yeah, it's in the moment. I would say that's from
Got some
great initiative, guys. I just saw this.
Great to see people typing in. Yeah, please do ask questions. There's a chat box here, and you can type in any questions that come up.
Yeah.
Encourage you to do that. And how about analytics? I'm just out of curiosity. Obviously, the PlaySight system, the Pro system has video and analytics. The Play system has just the video aspect. Is there one thing that you use more than the other? Do you use video more than analytics? Is there times and places for each?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you have the mind, feet, and hands. So it depends on what you're focused on. You don't want to take all those on at once. So it really depends on the situation. But to know a first serve percentage, if that's a concern, or if you're having somebody play a match and you're now focused on one court and you can go over there and just see what's going on, it's a powerful tool to be able to just have a quick review of what's been happening.
Right.
So I think that's super.
Okay. Just only a couple more questions, really. And so everyone who's on, please do type in any questions you have for Gordon.
One thing I've been asked quite a bit is how do you create money from PlaySight? I know that's been a challenge, and just to throw it out there, one thing that we did is, we put in a nicer light system, for instance, that one of our clubs has 130 candles. Now, we don't charge more, say, hey, go on this court because it's for that one session, or, you're on a court with better lighting and you're not with a court with better. It's like, it's a blanket thing. So we'll just charge maybe 3-4% more, knowing that throughout the year, we're creating something that's just, much better than most around. And that becomes, I think people start to see, oh, I can see why, you're charging a little bit more. You're creating an environment that's really conducive to learning and improving. So, I know we took a stance at one point, putting $15 per session, you go to the desk, but I don't think it should be treated that way. I think it should be just something that people feel, I'm going to do it every day. I'm just going to put it on. Even if I don't use it, I don't feel like I'm wasting my money in a sense. I mean? It's just on. I have a moment, or maybe I want to watch this match because I played so well today. I didn't expect it. I want to watch it again to encourage myself. Or I played so poorly. Let's see why. And then maybe I can go through it a little bit more and figure out, oh, what was going on. So I think that's an important point for club owners to understand, that it's not like a vending machine. You don't think of it that way. Think of it as something like having beautiful courts that are you know, with nice nets and you have nice lighting system. It's another aspect of your club and the environment that you're creating for your members.
And when you have people looking at joining Court Sense or taking lessons there, is it something that you show them and that?
Yeah, and we have, like I mentioned, some coaches champion it more than others. You know, some get intimidated by technology and they've been coaching for 15, 20 years and they have their way. And then that's where I will come in and others that are champion and slowly convert them. But, you know, I wouldn't put a hammer over anybody like that because they're just not going to be happy. And I don't find that's the way to approach somebody. And you know what? There may be a couple coaches that are incredible coaches. They have more demand than ever, and they're just not going to use it. Now, I look at it like, wow, it's a shame they don't, because there's some learners that would just learn that much better, but they're still giving a great lesson, and, you know, God bless them. You know, that's,
by the way, for everyone on, we're recording this and we'll send this out to you so you can share it with your other coaches or anyone who you want to share it with. Gordon, as someone who's really visionary and has done something different at your club than I've seen anywhere else, I would be really curious to hear your thoughts on where the tennis industry is going in the future, where you think coaching is going, how technology fits into that in the coming 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, you know, I think a lot of the coaches that are maybe a little bit more resistant, they're not in that new generation, right? Where technology is just, you have so much access to it, and it almost becomes you know, it's the standard for this new generation. So I think that technology is going to play more and more of a role. And there's all kinds of, you know, you have UTR and you have different things with ball machines, and it's an exciting time that we live in. And, you know, for me, I love to maximize the potential of a coach and give them the tools to go maximize. So then that coach maximizes the child, right? So that's kind of, I was on the court 60 plus hours a week for many, many years. And I slowly went down to 55, 50, 40, 40. And now I'm virtually just kind of looking over, making sure everybody's doing what they love to do, right? And I feel like I'm a little bit of a cheerleader and saying, hey, let's do this the right way. Let me make sure that you know, our army in a sense has the right tools to be successful in this battle of battle sounds like the wrong thing, but maybe not the right analogy, but we want to be prepared to really take on each child so they get the most out of themselves. So that hour is as productive as it possibly could be. So, you know,
That's awesome. I just saw a question come through, so
sure.
The question reads, is the volume always on? And for tournaments, what is best practices, avoid embarrassing situation, and ladies league conversations, etc. Kind of, could you touch on the volume and then?
Yeah, you have to be sensitive. So if you're using the PlaySight arcade and you have somebody who's playing a match right next to you, either, you know, I think common sense, go ask them, is this okay? Maybe have it a little lower. You know, it really depends on the situation. I think for tournaments, the USTA has not mandated yet the play fair, but I think they're getting pretty close from what I'm told. I know UTR, you can do that. You know, having the iPads issued is another incredible thing. So if somebody challenges a call, you'd be able to go, you know, have the iPad for the umpire in the very near future, I'm hoping. And I know for the pro courts, the iPads aren't linked in, but hopefully PlaySight will have a solution for that as, you know, PlaySight continues to evolve. But I think there's so many different ways of using the technology to one's advantage and the creativity. I think it's great you're having these forums, because I'm sure there's many that have it that you know, it's great to share thoughts and ideas.
Yeah. And for tournament play, do people sign a waiver, and do they purchase the match?
We have waivers for everybody that's part of Court Sense, that we're allowed to video them and, you know, use it for marketing, and, you know, they've all signed that. So that hasn't been a problem. You know, I know the USDA does tournaments down at Lake Nona, and that hasn't been a challenge. But I know that some people get a little sensitive about it. We've had maybe 1 or 2 people over the years that say, you know what, I just want my child videoed, and then we just say, okay, they won't be videoed. You know, we go along. We try to explain to them that it's in their best interest that they do, because you can learn from it. And nobody really, it's not going to be used for anything other than for coaches to help kids develop. Right.
We just got another question. So it says, do you run any competitions with any of the PlaySight drills, which are successful with like kids and more of the younger generation?
Yeah, I did a trial with that, as you know, a few years ago, and there's a roadmap what they say, and there's so many different things to take on, right? And that's something that in a perfect world we'd have the ability to go through these drills and then have a leaderboard, but there's nothing official where it's charting yet of how you've done at a certain drill and then tracking you. I know that's on the roadmap of PlaySight, but so because of that, it's pretty challenging. When I did that one weekend, I had spreadsheets and it was quite manual, a lot of manual labor to do that. So to be quite honest,
yeah. So what Gordon's referring to in terms of features is there's no like club-wide database of this person got this percent on this drill and this person got this percent. But in any given drill, you can have two people, players go
against each other.
Yeah, and really it becomes more of a competitive practice through that scenario.
Yeah.
And the other thing I just want to mention to everyone on is that May 27th, there's a new software upgrade coming out. And right now you can currently save your drills as a coach. What this is going to allow you to do is save a drill for everyone within the club. So all of your coaches will be able to access the same drill. And that's where I think, Gordon, with your philosophy, for example, you can have certain drills that everyone believes in, that you and Carlos and Augie and everyone believes in, and have all your coaches run that same drill. And then it would be a manual process of marking it down, but at least you know everyone has the exact same setup and configuration.
Yeah. I see Didi's on.
Yeah. From Vancouver, from Tennis Canada.
Oh yeah, he's doing quite a good job up there. I'm sure he's using PlaySight all the time. Look at Tennis Canada rocking and rolling.
They've got a lot of like Felix Auger-Aliassime seems like he might be a future top guy. He's already a top guy, I guess.
They're saying my new look. Yeah, I've had this beard for about a year and a half now. It's been too long, Didi, since I've seen you.
That's thanks. Odette said Canadian success due to PlaySight. I think there's more to it than that, but we'll take a small amount of credit for hopefully helping the players figure out how to debrief and look at their play objectively from a young age.
Exactly.
Tennis Canada has PlaySight in Vancouver, Montreal, Toronto, and actually Calgary as well. So, and I know they have kind of a philosophy of different ages or at different training centers. I wish we could have audio for Odette. We have to have Odette as a guest.
Oh, he's got to do one of these. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
I'll be firing questions his way.
Definitely.
But one thing I would say though, just as an overall picture, is PlaySight is incredible for being able to analyze any kind of construction of a point, footwork, even technique. But to complement it with, and I know Tennis Canada uses Dartfish for side-by-side analysis, and that's where I've been talking to PlaySight saying, hey, it'd be great if they can unify it in some way, because I know it's not on the roadmap in the near future, maybe never, to do technical help for a player, and then to have that in the same environment or cloud would be very powerful. Because like anything, if you have on PlaySight, you see it and you explain it, but then to show Federer next to the player is another level of being able to help through video analysis.
Absolutely.
So it's using all the technologies, like a ball machine. PlaySight's not in the ball machine business, right? But to have a ball machine on a PlaySight court, now you're creating an environment and tools for a coach to just be that much more successful and have a player learn quicker.
Absolutely. And we're working on integrations with sensors and, as you know, ball machines and other aspects. And hopefully those will come out soon. And we just got another question. So where did you get the magnetic eye ports, Gordon? That was
yeah, you can go into eyeport.com, and I think there's a good chance that the PlaySight will have a relationship with them. So that's just in the beginning stages. I introduced them to them, and it's just a quality product. They use it in the military. They have these military cases, a little heavier because they have a magnet there. But one thing that's nice about it is I like to have redundancy, and you know, to give it to a desk person, they forget to plug it in. You have wires all over the place. If you have 8 or 9 iPads on a desk, it just gets cluttery, right? So it's just to have a space on a wall that's by the desk, you hang it up and it's being charged. It looks professional. You know, it's really a nice way of, you know, military case, it could drop, no problem. You're not gonna have broken cases and, you know, or glass and, you know, all those things. It just made a lot of sense for us. So we got 9 iPads between the 2 clubs. We're 4 at one site and 3 at the other. And we're pretty new to doing this, and it's been a huge success. So I think we're gonna be getting more in the near future. And like I said, the investment's not only for PlaySight. So we do attendance on it. We use the Playmate ball machine on it. We can do side-by-side analysis with whatever software you choose. We even have, you know, like a Facebook page. I'm forgetting the name of it. I can look it up here. But Facebook has a company they started for businesses. Hold on. Sorry for the delay here. But
No.
it's a great communication tool. So if something's not working with PlaySight, the coaches right away could just make a comment. And then as management, we could then throw all the PlaySight support. Or we, you know, if there's something with the ball machine's not working, or a tube's broken, or a basket, all of a sudden it becomes this network that allows us to communicate what may not be functioning right. And in that moment, it can be addressed. What happens to a lot of coaches, you know what, I'll think about it later. They never communicate it. It's called Workplace. So we have this Workplace app where now it's like a Facebook page, but it's an internal network. So you can post a video, you can post a picture with a comment, you know, and then it becomes a communication center. So, you know, I guess the reason I'm mentioning this is, you know, the iPort cases are fairly expensive. So it's like, oh, am I willing to spend $350, $400 on an iPad and then another $400 on a case? Oh, that's a lot. But this company really has a niche because they start realizing that it's so much more efficient. In the long term, you have it for 5, 6 years. And all of a sudden you're using this iPad beyond PlaySight. It's not only for PlaySight. Now it helps with productivity. And by the way, if you create an environment for the coaches where they feel like you're looking out for them and you're creating an environment that is conducive for them to do their job better, it's an all win.
And my final question for you, Gordon, and I hope we'll get some other maybe from the people attending. Just feel free to type in as many questions as you have. But can you speak to your son's improvement and kind of how he was on PlaySight from the time he was, what, 7? Maybe?
No, even earlier. I mean, he started in red ball on it a little bit, believe it or not. Yeah, you know what? He's the next generation that it's going to be interesting to see what the outcome is. And we have a bunch of others like Philip and a whole bunch of kids that started that are good friends of Zenny that are in our program. They're used to some more than others. Zenny happens to be a candidate where almost every practice he goes online in the car and he watches the highlights of what he just did. And then it becomes a discussion, you know, and that's, I don't think people realize how powerful that is because he's constantly, it's almost a rehearsing what he just did and visualizing. And then he has this video that just goes into his DNA of understanding that, oh, that's the point. Oh, you know what? I'm a little high. Yeah, I could be lower. So next time he goes on corridor, he maybe watches it before he goes on corridor. He creates, I would, as a parent, create highlight films. And I think I passed one along to you in the holidays. It was like a 3-minute highlight reel of like 4 different times he was on a PlaySight court. I use the editing software of PlaySight, which is brilliant. And I put it on iMovie and create a soundtrack. Now that becomes an inspiration to him. So when he watches, he's a little bit down and not feeling good about himself. Watch this video. You're a rock star, Zenny. Look at this. And he sees this highlight reel. And that's something that Jim Laird did for years with all of his athletes, that he would have this visual with music. It's just, people can't, I don't think one understands how powerful that is for a child to see themselves doing things that are really positive and, you know, incredible shots and movement and decisions and just picturing themselves doing things that are creative and working hard on the court. You know, I think it's very powerful.
Absolutely. And Odad from Tennis Canada just said very powerful because there's a huge gap between what kids think they do and what they actually do. And
absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
And that could be a positive or negative. I as a player, was too negative on myself. I think a lot of times I think I looked maybe better than I thought I looked because I was.
There's other kids that are pretty cocky, and you got to show them, hey, my friend, look at this. This is not gonna. You're not gonna go that far if you have this kind of body language after you lose a couple points. And then they wake up, you know, and they're, oh my God, you got me, you know, and that becomes powerful. By the way, one thing I would also say at Bogota Racket Club, our kids they make overall really good line calls because they know that the video's on. So it becomes their instinct to know that, you know what, I can get called on with this. So I might as well make the right call. So now when even PlaySight's not on because they're at another facility playing a tournament, their instinct is to do the right thing because they've been monitored in a way. It's habitual. Yeah.
Yes.
Which is, as a parent, you say, hey, you know, you don't want to be known as a hook, right? So it's another very, you know, positive aspect of having it on all the time.
And in the college world, we've seen that already. We conducted 57, I think it was, play fair dual matches this year. Last year was 36, so this was the final year of this pilot, and we're hoping to get it officially into the rule book this summer with the ITA, and then soon thereafter with the USTA, so that anyone with PlaySight can have the challenge system running. And what we saw was really interesting. There were an average of 9 challenges per dual match, which there's 9 total matches. There's 3 doubles and 6 singles. So what that comes down to is just 1 challenge per match. And this is an atmosphere where people don't trust each other and they've been making horrible calls for years. And you introduce this and all of a sudden the atmosphere completely changes. There's only
how many arguments in the past? Do we have that data? Like how many question calls were there in the past where they go and ask for an umpire? That would be interesting. Probably like 5 or 6 a match, right?
5 or 6 a match. I mean, I can tell you that from my personal experience, that was definitely the case. I mean,
very powerful.
Constantly question line calls and distrust. And so, yeah, I think this is going to be big for junior tennis, for college tennis. And, you know, people won't have to worry about hitting 2 feet within the lines anymore. Be able to.
By the way, another thing we're doing is college videos. You have a good match, you show a highlight reel to a coach. You know, you're a senior or junior in high school, you want a coach to see how you're playing. You say, hey, here's a highlight reel. If you want to see the whole match, here's the link to that as well. Powerful.
Yeah, and the highlights is huge. I think, you know, Adam, I think his last name, Adam Altschuler. Do you know Adam?
Yeah.
Coach at Bethany Max.
Yep, yeah, I know Adam well.
So he's up at Intensity in Connecticut, who's a client of ours, and he talks about he would create these highlight clips for Bethany Maddox Sands before her matches and before even practices.
From PlaySight.
Well, now it's being used with PlaySight. Before it was just what other video, ATP or WTA video.
Yep.
And he would intermix, you know, little clips of like, this is how you need to play, or nobody's better than you when you're at the net. And then it would be that kind of message to her follow like clip of all her points beating Serena Williams at net. And it's powerful to kind of reinforce the style of play and what, you know, your best shots. So
I agree.
Well, so we've already kept Gordon for almost, you know, 40 minutes now. So any other questions, please type them in. Otherwise, in a few minutes, we'll sign off and we'll send you guys the recorded version of this. Gordon, thank you so much for
absolutely. It's my pleasure. It's listen, it's a small community, the tennis world, so I think it's great to share everybody's thoughts and, you know, with PlaySight and anything else. You know, I'm an open book. I love to share and inspire others, and I love to get inspired. So this is what it's all about. Anytime.
Definitely, yeah. We'll do one of these soon where we can all chime in and talk to each other. So it's a conversation amongst everyone.
That'd be nice. Good idea. Great.
All right. Yeah, we'll give it just 2 more minutes. We'll hang here in case there's any other questions. But otherwise, thanks everyone for joining, and we'll talk to you on the next one.
Yeah. You want to hang more? Are we good?
I think maybe just like 30 more seconds just to see if any other questions pop up. But otherwise, I'll sign off.
By the way, I was just in Nashville. In this high school in Nashville. What an impressive, I'm forgetting the name.
Answorth?
Yeah. I was just there with Zenny because, you know, my daughter Zia's, you know, into the singing, and we had some things she had to do there, but wow, what a facility.
Yeah.
It's impressive. I mean,
it's amazing.
It rivals any college.
It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And they have swimming and
yeah, I didn't see the rest of the campus, but the tennis facility, wow, they have a jumbo screen and
we got another question here. What is your recommendation for club setup? Probably in terms of mix of products, Gordon, you know, play, pro, how many courts of each?
Yeah, one thing I'm challenging PlaySight on right now is to have the ability for the pro to have the same abilities with QR codes. And I think that's something that would be nice. You know, one thing that we're going to start doing in the lobby pretty soon is putting the QR codes in the lobby. So then a parent can actually access the video and review something they just saw. It's like that interaction is amazing. You know, there's nothing to hide, right? So if one can afford to have the pro on all the courts, we have that at one of our clubs. I think that's ideal, obviously. But if, you know, obviously with budgets, that could be difficult. So another nice way of doing it is you have like what in Nashville, they had the end courts with pro, and then they had 4 in the middle that were plays. So yeah, I think it's great to have the ability to be able to go from court to court on an iPad as well. And that's a new feature that we're starting to experience more, where you can just roam the courts, and then while during match play and you see something and you can walk to them and then cue it up and then go to the baseline, show them what they're doing, and then have them go right back to practicing again. So it really depends on budget. But I think to have a pro is very powerful, but the plays are amazing as well. So.
Thanks for the question.
Yeah.
Okay. There aren't any other questions. You can always fire over any other questions to me after, and I'll ask if Gordon can answer those over email, and then we'll definitely do another one of these soon and send this out. Thanks, everyone.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Gordon.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.